And so do you want to explain exactly how you do that? And then we can progress with our discussion about what you think should be done?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Look, it's much easier for politicians to just promise everything to everyone, because then they just seem like good guys and they don't actually make any decision. Of course, they do in reality, because every year you have a budget and you don't have infinite resources on your budget. So in your budget, you actually show what it is that you really care for. And so it ends up being a few things that you focus on, but often without much concern about efficiency. So what we're trying to bring to the table is, in a sense, and that's what economists can do. We're basically helping, and I should just say I'm a pretend economist. I'm actually a political scientist, but I work with a lot of really, really smart economists. And they look at how much will it cost and how much good will it do. Remember, some things are very desirable, but really, really hard to do. So, for instance, getting rid of corruption in general. I'll actually tell you, we do have one good solution, but in general, corruption, huge problem. It costs about $1 trillion a year or more for the world, but we don't know how to get rid of it. It's really hard to do because the systems that are needed to get rid of corruption are exactly the ones that are corrupt.
Right.
So it's really hard to do something.
This has been a real problem as the former Soviet Union countries have tried to retool, because even if you import Western structures, nobody trusts them because the corruption is so unbelievably widespread. And the problem with corruption, of course, is that once it's instantiated, it manifests itself at every level of society. And so that's a good example of a low-resolution concept. Well, there's corruption. It's like, yeah, but now you've said very little by saying that, because the devil in that situation is definitely in the details. And so you might want to fight corruption, but that's not a plan. And so, we should also, so you set up teams of economists that would rank order the goals, and then you averaged across the teams, which I also thought was brilliant methodologically, because you could argue that any given economist's analysis of both costs and benefits has a margin of error of some substantive amount, right? And because it's hard to assess and to forecast. But technically speaking, from the perspective of a social scientist, I would say that that's an unbeatable methodology, even though it's still going to produce a somewhat problematic end, because you zoom in on where there's multidimensionally measured consensus.
Yeah.
And at least in principle, you'd be ironing out the errors of any given team of economists.
Hopefully, yes.
Well, at least to the degree you can.
Again, we're not trying to make the truth of the world, but we're just trying to make a much better resolution of what it is that we can do. So we try to identify what are things that we can actually do,
right,
stuff
so they're
we
practical.
know works, and that we have good evidence for works at low cost with high benefits. And so what we're essentially doing is we provide, if you will, a menu for the world. So a menu typically comes with, tells you what you're going to get, how much you're going to get, a tiny pizza or a big pizza, and how much will it cost. And then, of course, you can make those decisions. So economists are not going to tell you, you should do this.
Right.
But basically, we're telling you, here is something that at very low cost can give you a lot of good food. How about that? Yeah. So on the same way, in the world order, we make a list of all the things you'd like to do, where are really smart, or that is really very effective policies that we know works, that would help a lot of people at low cost. Yeah. Why don't we do that before we do the stuff that'll cost a lot but help very few people?
Right. And we should talk a little bit about that as a fundamental presupposition too, because there's a kind of utilitarianism there, which is that all things considered, in the absence of other compelling reasons, you should do what you can the most efficient way. Well, why? Well, because what efficiency means, because people might say, well, some things are so important that it's worth spending the money on. It's like, yeah, but there's many things that are important. And unfortunately, when you spend, given that resources are not precisely infinite, when you spend money in one place, that means you're not spending it in another place. And so if you believe that you have 12 things to do that are good, or 169 things, you have to value efficiency from the moral perspective, because in principle, efficiency is precisely that which allows you to address more than you would have otherwise been able to manage. And otherwise, what are you going to make an argument for inefficiency? Which is, so...
It's weird, at least.
Well, yeah. So this is, well, I like this because it zeroed us in, your methodology. It also reduced a landscape of problems that was so diverse and disparate that there was no way anyone sensible could have possibly undertaken the enterprise. And then it's extraordinarily practical. And so, and it also, the other thing that I found very striking was that in comparison to the amount of money we're already spending on all sorts of things, the amounts that your teams have been recommending are really rounding errors in the total, let's say, international, in the total world of international or national governance. And so, but it's also demoralizing in some sense, because you understand that we could do the 12 most important and efficient things and do a lot of good for a lot of people, especially the absolutely poor. And we could do that without really even noticing it. Yeah, on the spending side.
Yeah.
So that's incredibly optimistic, but the problem is that you got to ask yourself, given that that's the case, what the hell have we been doing? And well, that's something we'll delve into today.
Yeah.
Bjorn Lomborg, who's basically that guy at a restaurant telling you which dishes will give you the best bang for your buck. But instead of food, he's serving up policy solutions. Yum. Lomborg's team is all about efficiency, and they're bringing it to the political table like a piping hot pizza. But let's be honest, who hasn't promised their friends free pizza only to realize they don't have the dough? It's easier for politicians to promise everything, but their budget is more like a single slice than an all-you-can-eat buffet. Now, fighting corruption may sound like a great plan, but it's about as specific as saying, let's go fight crime. You gotta have a plan, people. Corruption is like mold. Once it sets in, it spreads everywhere, and just like mold, it's hard to get rid of without tearing everything apart and bleaching it. Lomborg's economists are like master chefs, ranking goals and finding consensus on the best policies to whip up. Sure, their methodology might not be as flawless as a Gordon Ramsay souffle, but it's still better than eating burnt toast. They're not claiming to be the ultimate truth tellers, but rather providing a menu of effective policies that won't empty our wallets. It's like utilitarianism meeting budgeting. You know what they say, a penny saved is a penny not wasted on inefficient policies. Efficiency isn't just an economic virtue, it's a moral one. Because if you don't get the most out of your resources, you're leaving people behind. And nobody wants to be that guy. The thing that's both hopeful and soul-crushing is that these solutions could be funded with just the spare change we find in the couch cushions of international governance. So why aren't we doing these efficient, cost-effective things already? That's the million-dollar question, or maybe the trillion-dollar question, depending on how bad our math is. As we navigate the treacherous waters of politics and economics, we encounter some strange beasts. Let's call them inefficient policy monsters. They're like mythical creatures, only they lurk in government offices and drain resources while providing little to no benefit. And much like the Hydra, when you cut off one of their heads, two more seem to grow back in its place. But fear not, for our heroes, Lomborg and his merry band of economists are here to save the day. They've got a secret weapon, a magical artifact forged in the fires of academia. Data-driven decision-making, it's like the Excalibur of policy analysis, cutting through the fog of uncertainty and allowing our brave knights to slay the monsters of inefficiency. As we continue on this epic quest, we discover that tackling big issues like poverty and climate change can be like fighting a boss battle in a video game. You might throw everything you've got at it, but sometimes you're just not doing any real damage. Lomborg's team helps us identify the weak points, the strategies that will actually make a difference, and bring us one step closer to victory. Meanwhile, in the murky depths of bureaucracy, the forces of corruption continue to plot their nefarious schemes. As Lomborg points out, eliminating corruption is like trying to outsmart a cunning trickster. It's slippery, elusive, and seems to always be one step ahead of us. But our heroes won't back down, armed with evidence-based policies and a dogged determination to create a better future. As we reach the climax of this thrilling saga, we found ourselves faced with a choice. Will we heed the wisdom of Lomborg and his economists, embracing inefficiency and making the most of our limited resources? Or will we continue down the path of inefficiency and waste, squandering the chance to create real, lasting change? The decision is ours to make, but one thing's for sure, with Lomborg's menu of policy solutions, we've got a fighting chance at turning this tale into a true success story. And who knows, maybe someday we'll look back on this epic adventure and say, we did it. We slayed the beasts of inefficiency and brought prosperity to the realm. We are in the midst of a great debate. On one side, we have the champions of efficiency armed with data, facts, and a no-nonsense approach to problem solving. On the other side, we have the defenders of the status quo, clinging to their inefficient ways and resisting the winds of change. But as the battle rages on, a new player enters the fray, the voice of the people. Like a chorus in the Greek tragedy, they echo the sentiments of the masses, clamoring for progress and demanding a better world. And as their voices rise, it becomes clear that the tide is turning in favor of our heroes. As Lomborg and his team of economists continue to sharpen their tools and refine their menu of policy solutions, they find allies in unexpected places, from grassroots movements to innovative startups. People from all walks of life join the cause, united in their pursuit of a brighter future. But every epic fairy tale has its share of setbacks, and our story is no exception. Our heroes must navigate the treacherous terrain of bureaucracy, outsmart the cunning forces of corruption, and dodge the slings and arrows of a partisan politics. It's a high-stakes game, and the stakes are nothing less than the fate of humanity. Yet, as the journey unfolds, a sense of hope begins to emerge, as more and more people join the crusade for efficiency and evidence-based policies. The power of collective action becomes apparent. No longer is just the tale of Lomborg and his team. It's a story of a global movement, united in the pursuit of a better world. So, as we near the end of the epic adventure, let's take a moment to reflect on the lessons we've learned. We've seen that, armed with data and determination, even the most daunting challenges can be overcome. We've witnessed the power of people coming together, transcending borders and barriers in the name of progress. And we've discovered that when we embrace efficiency and evidence-based decision-making, we can create a brighter future for all. As our heroes ride off into the sunset, their work is far from over. We're left with a feeling of optimism and a renewed sense of purpose. For in this story of politics, economics, and pursuit of a better world, we found not just a call to action, but a beacon of hope. And in these turbulent times, that's something we can all rally around. As the sun sets in on this grand adventure, we can't help but ponder the road that lies ahead. The journey may be long and arduous, but our heroes have shown us that even the most insurmountable obstacles can be conquered with the right blend of knowledge, determination, and collaboration. In the days to come, the tales of Lomborg and his fearless economists will spread far and wide, inspiring a new generation of change makers. These future leaders, guided by the principles of efficiency and evidence-based policy, will carry the torch forward, building upon the foundation laid by our heroes. From town halls to global summits, the call for better policymaking will reverberate, sparking spirited debates and innovative ideas. As these discussions unfold, old adversaries may find common ground, and seemingly impossible challenges may give way to creative solutions. But the story doesn't end with our heroes, or even the leaders of tomorrow. No, this epic saga belongs to each and every one of us. For in a world of finite resources and seemingly infinite problems, we all have a part to play in shaping our collective destiny. Let us all take up the mantle, whether as advocates, innovators, or simply as engaged citizens. By supporting policies that maximize efficiency and impact, we can create lasting change and leave a legacy of progress for future generations. As we look to the horizon with the lessons of Lomborg and his team etched into our hearts, we can't help but feel a sense of hope. For we've seen that when we come together, armed with knowledge and a shared vision, there's no limit to what we can achieve. So here's to the heroes, the dreamers and the doers who dare to imagine a better world. May their stories continue to inspire us, and may their successes serve as a reminder that with the right mindset and a touch of courage, we can write the next chapter in our epic tale, one filled with progress, prosperity, and a happy ending for all. Thank you.